Welcome to the Prospective Doctor podcast, brought to you by Med School Coach. Pre-med and medical students alike are encouraged to tune in each week for tips on how to become a strong med school candidate, gain acceptance into the school of your dreams, and succeed on your journey toward residency and becoming a doctor.
Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be back today with another episode. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Puja Aggarwal. I'll give her an opportunity to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her journey to medicine.
Hi, hello, everyone. My name is Puja Aggarwal. I am a board-certified neurologist and epileptologist, and I'm also a life coach. And so my journey to medicine was, I was in high school, and actually from high school, I knew I wanted to be a physician. My older sister was a physician, and I just thought, I love biology, why not? So actually from high school, I joined a 6-year combined undergrad and medical school program. And I went to medical school in Ohio. And then from there, I went and started my residency at Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio. And I did my neurology residency there, both my prelim medicine and then neurology residency. And from there, actually, when I was finishing up residency or my last year, I wasn't really sure about what fellowship I wanted to do. So, I liked EEG, epilepsy, and I liked some other things, but I wasn't sure. So what I actually decided to do was just go ahead and start practicing as a general neurologist. And I actually went to George Washington University, and there I was faculty for a year. And I was teaching medical students, residents, and just doing general neurology, both outpatient and inpatient. And I really liked that. But then I felt like I knew I always wanted to do a fellowship. But then when I was actually there, I actually found that I was looking more for doing epilepsy or reading EEGs or electroencephalograms. And so looking at people's brain waves, and I really found that more interesting over time. And so actually decided I applied for a fellowship during that time. I actually got it, went back to Cornell or New York Presbyterian Hospital in New York City. I did my fellowship there. It was clinical neurophysiology, but really more EEG or epilepsy predominant, very minimal on the EMG or electromyogram. So I really enjoyed it. I did lots of EEGs, more than I can even, a lot of practice, a lot of seeing patients, and I really enjoyed it. And so from there, then I went on to work in Pittsburgh at University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. I was there for 3 years. I did, again, inpatient, outpatient, general neurology with some EEG focus or epilepsy focus. And then actually, I liked that, but I found I was on call a lot, and it was a lot to take on, honestly. 14 weeks of call a year was a little bit much. But, so I actually took a different turn. I went and did telemedicine as an independent contractor with a third-party company, and I did that for a few years. And that was good. And I was seeing patients at hospitals as an inpatient teleneuro consultant. And that was good. I was seeing patients in Florida and, all over the US, so many different states. And that was good. And, I like telemedicine, but then I was finding myself thinking, well, oh my gosh, I can't, after like a couple of years, I miss seeing patients as an inpatient or just seeing patients face to face. So then actually, when the pandemic started, I was looking to go back to actually, seeing people in person, and people are like, oh my gosh, how is it you want to go back? Why don't you just continue to do medicine? I was like, well, that's good for a little bit. But, so anyway, went back and I started working at a local hospital in Orlando Health, and I do inpatient neurology there for consults. And I've been doing that for the last year. And so, yeah, I really like that.
That's awesome. It sounds like you've had quite a journey. I just want to pull a few things from what you just discussed, because I think it's important for the students to hear. And we have a couple of things in common. Firstly, we both lived in DC area for a little bit, and I'm still out here. But another thing that you pointed out was that you knew that you wanted to be a doctor from an early age, and you did one of the combined programs. So I also did a combined program at BU, but it was a little different. We didn't go straight from high school. But for students who may be interested in doing a combined program, do you have any tips in terms of if it's better to do it one way or the other? Because sometimes you're kind of locked into medicine and you may not be too sure yet.
Yeah, so one thing I always encourage people, if you're looking to do a combined, either if it be 6-year undergrad and MD or 7-year, know that that's what you want to do. Because, once you go in, people sometimes take other avenues, decide not to do medicine. But if it is really what you want to do, I would try to look from when you're in high school. Try to shadow physicians if you can, get that kind of exposure. And, that can really help you decide if that's something you want to do. And not just like a day. I mean, if you can spend like multiple days, even like weeks, that can really help give you some idea of what physicians do. And not only that, I mean, look into what, the program requires, the different programs that you're looking at, what do they require in terms of like MCATs. So for my program, you just had to get a minimum passing score on the MCATs at that time, and just to get into medical school. And so that wasn't a hard requirement versus like if you go the other route doing traditional undergrad in the medical school, you have to actually get much higher scores.
Mm-hmm.
And this can vary obviously from program to program and what the requirements are. But in my program at Northeastern Ohio Medical University, what it's called now, it used to be called NEO-UCOM, that acronym. But anyway, so that was the requirement. But I think I always encourage you to, look into what it is that you want. Get that exposure. Go shadow a physician. Ask them as many questions as you can. Not even just one physician. Ask as many physicians as you can to get that information that you need to decide if that's something you want to do.
I totally agree with that. So I just, to summarize, I think it just says get all of the exposure you can get because it's quite a big decision. But in reality, you won't know until you get there. So keep an open mind and you'll just go through that process and see if it's right for you. So you're a neurologist, as we discussed. What inspired you, firstly, to enter the field of neurology and then to subspecialize in epilepsy medicine?
Yeah, so I remember my first year of medical school in our neuroscience classes, they're dissecting the brain and, we're learning all the pathways of the brain and how that affects, your movements, your ability to feel touch and pain and different things like that. I was so fascinated by that. And I love how you can just by knowing how those pathways work from the brain down to the nerves and throughout the body, you can really localize different medical conditions. So let's say if it be stroke, certain types of stroke, you can localize based upon the physical symptoms of the patient to where it is in the brain. And so I really loved that aspect. I really loved localizing. And so first of all, neuroscience, and then also in general neurology, I really liked the brain, the spinal cord. I just was always drawn to that, even beyond, the first year of neuroscience. And then in medical school, at one point, I thought, oh, maybe pediatric neurology, but then I did my peds rotation. I'm like, kids are not for me. So I was like, adults, I need them to be able to speak to me and tell me what's going on. So that, so once I actually, was with adults, then I actually found, oh, well, this is what I want to do. And then, during my residency, you get to do lots of different things. You get to do, EMGs, EEGs, you get to do stroke, take care of stroke patients, MS patients, and migraines. I mean, the whole gamut of neurology you get to do. And in terms of subspecializing in epilepsy, like I said earlier, I didn't initially know. I mean, I knew I had an inclination towards EEGs, but I didn't, if you could tell me if you could sit in a room all day reading EEGs, would you really like it? And I was thinking at that point, no. But then once I was reading EEGs when I wasn't attending, I was doing it. And I actually thought, well, this is good. This is what I want to do. And there were definitely some patients I connected with when I was in residency and then also attending that had epilepsy. And I thought that that's really what I want to do. So that's when I decided to go back and look at the fellowship and apply, and I got that in epilepsy.
That's awesome. And I think that kind of proves the point where with your experiences, it may show more things as to what you're actually interested in. So it's okay not to have the complete plan mapped out when you're in med school and you're going into residency or residency transitioning into being an attending or even fellowship. So you took some time as a general neurology attending, and then you were like, okay, I want to go back and get some more training. And it was totally able to do that. So there is always other ways to continue to grow and learn and to kind of reshape your career into what you want it to be.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. And, if you want to practice for a while and even go back and do a fellowship later on, people do that. So, I mean, it can work out. It doesn't have to be like a set plan that you have to follow right away.
Absolutely.
At Med School Coach, we know that getting into medical school is hard. In fact, 60% of pre-meds who apply to medical school don't even get accepted. And if you want to get accepted into a top medical school, it's even harder. It's a complicated process, and even students with great grades and MCAT scores get left out. That's why more students than ever are turning to Med School Coach for admissions advising. Our advisors are all physicians and former admissions committee members, so they know exactly what medical schools are looking for. One-on-one admissions advising from Med School Coach makes all the difference. Our expert team will help you develop a game plan, prepare your application, edit your essays, and coach you for interviews. Every pre-med has a story, and we'll help you tell it so you can stand out from the crowd. Visit us online at medschoolcoach.com and use offer code PODCAST10 to save 10% up to $400 on a Med School Coach admissions advising package. You can achieve your medical school dreams, and Med School Coach can help.
So you also mentioned that you are a life coach. Can you describe what you do and how it could help pre-meds or med students?
Yeah, so I am a certified life coach. And so what that basically means is somebody who will help you either identify your goals, help you reach your goals, identify what you want to do in your life, or also identify self-limiting beliefs. So a lot of people in medicine, we always tend to look at the negative. What is it that I'm doing wrong? What is it that I need to do better? Versus looking at the positives of ourselves. And it's all about mindset. How are we looking at our life? How are we looking about, thinking about these minor things in our life? And with our mindset, we can really change and think about, well, I'm doing this really well and I'm doing this really well and I want to meet these goals versus like, well, I'm not reaching my goals. Mm-hmm. And it really depends how we look at things in life. And a coach can really help you do that and really help you identify those self-limiting beliefs, overcome them, and then really do what you want to do and think about things the way you want to think about them and achieve your dreams. It sounds cliched, but honestly, coaches can really help with that.
No, it seems like we're having a theme recently with a lot of guests that I've been having. For the listeners out there, it's not coach season on the series, but it is because coaches can really help you kind of master what you need. And it's a little different than going to see a therapist or talking to someone else. So it's kind of helping you kind of plan for your future and set up steps in order to succeed and kind of hit that out. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing with that.
Yeah, no, it definitely is very different than therapy or seeing a counselor. That's definitely more past or even present focus, whereas coaching is more like future focus.
Mm-hmm.
They are very different.
Absolutely. And with you mentioning that you had been doing some inpatient and outpatient medicine, then you went to telemedicine, and then you were kind of itching to get back into in-person care. How has the transition been with you going back to in-person care during the pandemic?
So I actually really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
And, people may think, oh, why would you go back to the hospital during the pandemic? But I have to say, telemedicine was good, but for me, wasn't. Mm-hmm. So in order to actually go back and see patients, I feel like I'm much happier. And I think the transition was actually quite easy initially. I think that, we have these waves with the pandemic of things mm-hmm. getting worse, things getting better in terms of cases and how many. And you just have to take it as it comes. Mm-hmm. And, I think that, sometimes you're going to not have great days and sometimes it's going to be better, but you have to take it as it comes. And right now with the pandemic, each day is a different day and things keep on changing and fluctuating. So that's the way we just have to look at it one day at a time.
Absolutely. With you doing a lot of work in the hospital and then doing things with your coaching business, how do you practice work-life balance?
So what I do is that the way I round the hospital, I round for a few hours. It's not that much to see some patients. I work at a community hospital, so there's not as many consults to see. And I usually work about 4 to 5 days a week. So and with the way I am, I pick and choose the days, but I do about 15 to 20, 24-hour shifts of call. Mm-hmm. And so with that, because I have that opportunity there was not as many consults, then I can also, do some of the coaching at other times, or even sometimes on the weekends. What I do tend to maintain in terms of work-life balance is when I'm with my family, I'm with my family. Mm-hmm. Spending time with them, that's usually the evenings when my kids get home from school, that's family time, spending time with them. And then once they go to sleep, sometimes I may spend some time on the business, may have to do some things in terms of for work at the hospital, if I have to answer calls, it's taking it as it comes. But definitely there are some times where, I get a call from the hospital when I'm during family time, you have to answer that. That happens. But if you really have a mindset where you're thinking, well, this is family time and I'm going to focus on this, and then set aside time to do, working for the hospital or coaching, whatever it is, you could definitely do it and balance it.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you're working on practicing your boundaries. So you're having your family time set aside. And of course, life happens. So sometimes you may get a call here and there, but setting that time aside and then trying to structure where your schedule you're able to set and say, okay, 15 to 20 calls a year. I mean, not a year, I wish, but a month. So you're able to figure out that time to balance some stuff for yourself too.
At Med School Coach, we know that studying for the MCAT exam can be challenging, especially for busy students on the go. That's why our team created MCAT Prep, the only all-encompassing study app built specifically for the MCAT. MCAT Prep by Med School Coach provides student access to extremely high-quality content and a personalized curriculum for free. The app has more than 250 videos, 1,000 flashcards, and 1,000 unique MCAT questions. Plus, MCAT Prep by Med School Coach allows students to create a personalized study schedule and track progress over time. You need every competitive advantage you can get to get into medical school, and now you can put the experts from Med School Coach into your pocket. It's the closest pre-med students can come to a personal tutor without spending a penny. Download MCAT Prep by Med School Coach for free at medschoolcoach.com/MCAT. Or download it directly from the Apple Store or Google Play Store. You can achieve your medical school dreams, and MCAT Prep by Med School Coach can help.
My final question for you is, what is one pearl of wisdom that you would like to leave with our listeners?
So the one final pearl of wisdom would be that, if you're a medical student, if you're pre-med, if you're a resident, whatever it is, or even if you're an attending, that you can achieve what you want. You just have to have the mindset and believe in it. And with that, you can accomplish anything. Again, as long as you believe in yourself and you believe it in your mind, you can do it.
That's some excellent advice. So how can our listeners reach out to you?
So they can reach out to me at my website. Either it's www.zenfulbrain.com. That's my website with zenfulbrain.com, or they can email it's questions@zenfulbrain.com.
Awesome. So for all you listeners out there, if you have any questions about coaching or the process, feel free to reach out. And I'm so thankful that you were able to make it out and talk to our students and other listeners here. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to say goodbye.
Thank you, everybody, for listening today. I really had a great time. And thank you, Dr. DeRouen, for having me. I really appreciate it. I had a great time.
No problem. And for all of the listeners out there, I'm just going to say goodbye for now. Click that subscribe button if you hadn't. I'll see you next week.
Each episode of the Prospective Doctor podcast is brought to you by Med School Coach. To access articles, videos, webinars, and free tools to help you succeed on your journey toward med school and beyond, visit our website, prospectivedoctor.com. We hope you tune in again next time.